It's time for some Blue Friday mock draft madness. Nick Lee, Dallas Cooper, and I are going to be dishing out a 7-round mock draft here live on Locked On Seahawks.
You are Locked On Seahawks, your daily Seattle Seahawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, 12s. This is Corbin Smith, host of the Locked On Seahawks podcast, your daily Seahawks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Glad to be joined by the tandem of Nick Lee and Dallas Cooper for today's Blue Friday episode. And a special thanks to all the 12s out there, as always, for making Locked On Seahawks your first listen 5 days a week. We're less than a month away from the 2023 NFL Draft, and so I think it is time for us to have our first live Locked On Seahawks mock draft of the offseason. Nick, Dallas, we're going to be working in collaboration on these selections. So we'll have 2 first-rounders, Seattle with number 5 and number 20, and then we'll get to the second and third round picks, and of course, the day 3 selections as well. Should be a lot of fun. We will be running this simulator with the Football Draft Network's mock simulator, which their new one actually just dropped a couple of days ago, available for premium users. So really excited to unleash that. And really the only ground rules we have, no fighting and no touching the hair face. We shouldn't have to worry about that with the TV or computer screens here. And so let's get to it here. Mock draft madness here on Blue Friday. And we're going to start the festivities with the first round, the Seahawks picking 5th overall. And I'm going to throw this out there before we get going on this, guys. There is a possibility we may want to trade up. We might want to trade down. So there's a lot of different options here for us to consider. But we got to see what happens these first couple picks between number 1 and number 5 to see where things lie here. So we're going to start the draft and see how the first couple picks play out here. The Cardinals now on the clock, and we can see the first 2 picks that are gone, Bryce Young and CJ Stroud. No surprise. So, guys, this kind of leads to an interesting discussion because there's another quarterback that the Seahawks seem to be pretty enamored by. And, oh, by the way, he's still there on the board. Nick, how would you feel about the possibility of going all in here and trading up for that number 3 pick?
Man, I'm still kind of on the fence a little bit, just because, the Seahawks, on one hand, there's only so many times that you're going to have a top 5 pick and you're going to be in this position. And, quarterbacks that have gone, and not number 1 overall work out all the time. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, you don't always have to get the number 1 guy. And at the same time, the Seahawks are not necessarily in a position of desperation like the Panthers or the Colts or the Texans are. So they don't need to, go crazy and mortgage a bunch of their future to get one guy. Another note, if they truly believe, and they being John Schneider and Pete Carroll, that Anthony Richardson is the guy to lead them to the city's next Super Bowl and be at the helm of the next great Seahawks team, if they truly in their heart of hearts believe that he is the guy and that he is not going to last until 5, pull the trigger, get your guy. Because I think this front office has earned a bit of the benefit of the doubt. So if you truly feel that Anthony Richardson is your guy, go get him. But if not, they're in a position of luxury. Really, they can go either which way. Will Anderson, I see is on the board. In this mock, he's ranked in these rankings, he's ranked number 1 as far as the prospects go, and he's still there. And I would imagine the Cardinals might pick him if you let the Cardinals pick here. But there's lots of options the Seahawks have, but I'm leaning towards yes if Anthony Richardson really is your guy. I do worry about the compensation, especially since you're dealing with a division rival. I think that's something to be considered. But if Anthony Richardson is the guy that you truly believe is going to be the next Super Bowl winning quarterback in Seattle, go get him.
Dallas, where do you stand on this? We got to let everybody have a say because this is the number 5 pick that we're talking about moving up to number 3. This is a huge decision for the Seahawks front office to make here. Do you roll the dice and go up and get that quarterback that probably is not going to be playing anytime soon with Geno Smith under contract? Or do you wait it out and you hope that one of those elite defensive players is right there for you at number 5?
This is truly, I agree with Nick. It's on the line. It's really either or. If they believe that Anthony Richardson is the guy to be at the helm of the offense and can truly ascend them not to just a good offense or a top 10 offense, but to one day ascend this team to a number 1 or a top 3 offense consistently, then you absolutely pull the trigger on him. Yet, if you're feeling so about it and you're absolutely not sure, you wait it out. There's 2 blue chip defensive players still available on the board, and you can immediately upgrade this defense. And what was most needed and what did most fans say? We all agree the front 7, specifically the defensive line, is the biggest need. And there's 2 great defensive linemen on the board.
Yeah, I think that the idea of trading up is intriguing, but I think in this instance, I think we wait it out and see what's at number 5. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think the Seahawks are in a position to be patient. I think they're in a good spot there.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's let the Cardinals pick, and let's see how things roll here. We expect that the Colts are going to take a quarterback at that position, and of course they did. And looking at our draft board right now, the Indianapolis Colts took Anthony Richardson, Will Anderson going to the Arizona Cardinals at number 3. So really no surprises. And looking at the board, what's available for the Seahawks, obviously the big elephant in the room here right now, when we're talking about the Seattle Seahawks, is Jalen Carter from Georgia with everything that's transpired this offseason. But he is easily the best player that is left on the board. So now the real question lies, do you roll the dice at number 5 there? Do you try to trade down? Or is there another player that's left on the board that you're enticed by here at number 5? Nick, I'm going to let you weigh in here first with this ever-important pick.
Well, I mean, I've always been a big Tyree Wilson fan. I think he's going to be a really, really good edge, pass rusher in this league. And we've toyed with the possibility of a corner, Christian Gonzalez. I think 5 is a little rich for that. Jalen Carter at 5 is a huge risk for me. This is a scenario that I see the Seahawks trading back from. Just that there's a few guys that I really like that maybe not necessarily everyone else has on top of their board. So I think the Seahawks, again, are in a position to have luxury to be patient, to let other teams panic while they kind of stand pat and while they kind of play their game. So maybe they have an opportunity to trade back here. So it looks like they do have a trade offer. I would entertain some trade offers here.
Well, the only issue here is this trade offer, and I'll let Dallas weigh on this here in a second because I know Dallas is a proponent of trading down too, but the only team that's offered is the Eagles. You would be dropping down to number 10, but you would also get the number 31 pick with this trade. And so we're looking at 3 first-round selections if you choose to do this. I think that we have to take this offer because we're also going to get a 7th-round pick as well and a 5th-rounder next year. Like the Eagles have somebody they really want bad. I actually have 3 or 4 guys I would like to pick here. I think it makes sense to drop down here.
Yeah, that's pretty tasty.
What do you think, Dallas?
That's a great offer. I think you can't pass that up. That's another first-round pick. And as you said, that's 3 first-round picks. And there's a good amount of guys in this range. Jalen Carter is the best guy, but I think this trade offer is too good.
Let's take this deal because we're going to get this number 10 and number 31 pick. Seattle now with 3 first-round selections. We are going to be going pretty fast here with the rest of these selections coming up to. I want to see who the Eagles even pick here with this pick. And the Eagles they selected Myles Murphy. They traded up for a pass rusher. And Tyree Wilson's gone. Will Levis is gone. Joey Porter Jr., Paris Johnson Jr. All right, guys, I think that we have now reached the moment of reckoning here. This is a pretty easy decision for me. Number 5, Jalen Carter, I might not be willing to roll the dice. Number 10, I am willing to roll the dice on a guy that I think, if he's got his head on straight, is the best player in this draft class. What do you guys think?
Yeah, if he is knucklehead free this whole offseason, he is long gone by 10. Long gone. And now that you've added another first-round pick to your mix, again, I've been using this word a lot. They have the luxury. They have the opportunity and the flexibility to take a risky move like Jalen Carter, who, again, I've been saying, is he the next Malik McDowell? While also he could be the next Fletcher Cox or better. So, I think this is a good spot for that.
Dallas, I don't think I have to argue with you with our podcast yesterday. You were arguing to pick Jalen Carter at number 5, so I'm pretty sure you're going to be on board with this.
Absolutely. You're arguably strictly on the field. You're arguably getting the best player in the draft. And what more can they add? This is a phenom pass rusher.
So we're going to go with Jalen Carter at number 10. We're going to get a guy that a couple months ago was viewed as a top 3, maybe number 1 overall pick. And now we're back on the board here real quick at number 20. Now looking and seeing who's gone off the board since then. We picked Carter at 10, and then Peter Skoronsky goes to the Titans, Lucas Van Ness to the Texans, Broderick Jones, the tackle from Georgia, to the Jets, Derek Hall to the Patriots, Quentin Johnston, the receiver, to Green Bay, Christian Gonzalez falling all the way to 16. Washington takes him. Devin Witherspoon, another corner, going at 17 to the Steelers. Brian Brzee, defensive lineman, to the Detroit Lions at 18. And then Julius Brents going at 19. A little earlier maybe than some people thought, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But you look at who's available here on the board. There's still some really fun players. Hey, I'm going to make you guys laugh here.
Here we go.
Hey, Bijan Robinson is there at number 20.
Here we go.
There's some other really good players here, though. Michael Mayer at this pick would make a lot of sense. I know Seattle doesn't need a tight end short term, but that guy is a stud. Jackson Smith and Jigba. You can get a complimentary weapon to go with DK and Tyler. And John Michael Schmitz, if you want that center, we could take him now and not risk losing him by pick 31. We're back on the clock. So, Nick, there's a number of options here. There's 3 or 4 that jump out immediately. I'm pretty sure I know where you want to go here.
Yeah, I've been pounding the table for center, but now with the 31st pick, it changes a little bit. You run the risk a little bit of him coming off the board in this scenario with this kind of draft board. I have seen him fall in the second round in some mocks. So I do wonder about an offensive weapon here, whether it be Bijan Robinson or Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Michael Mayer too, the tight end. Dalton Kincaid, a tight end out of Utah, another really fine tight end. I'm actually leaning towards getting a weapon here and just waiting and seeing what happens at 31 with John Michael Schmitz and maybe a few other fine centers down the line. Again, the Evan Brown signing makes it a little less desperate for a center, but I'm still not satisfied. So I think an offensive weapon here for Geno Smith, and maybe insert rookie quarterback if we do get one here is an option. I might go with Njigba just as a really, really talented, dynamic third option in the slot with Lockett and Metcalf. But Bijan Robinson, I know you're foaming at the mouth, Corbin. And Seahawks Twitter would be foaming at the mouth for other reasons. But I think an offensive weapon here would be pretty smart, given how many there are.
There's so many good skill guys available. Now, maybe Dallas has a counter argument, but I think I know which player he's going to be looking at here and drooling. So
I am pounding the table right now. Michael Mayer. He is a perfect offensive weapon for the Seahawks. He's going to be dominant over the middle, and that's exactly what they need. Whether it's a third receiver, whether it's a tight end 1, they just need a third pass catcher in general, a guy to complement Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. And he would do that while also providing excellent run blocking as well.
Oh boy, so I get to play the tiebreaker here because Nick was going in Jigba, you're going Mayer. I just think when you look from more than this year, you're going to have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett under contract. There's other really good receivers available. Michael Mayer could come in and compete with Noah Fant and Will Dissly to start for you on day 1. And you're going to have Fant and Parkinson as free agents next year. So this is a bigger need than I think some people realize. And you want to run the football better than you did last year. What's a key ingredient in that? Go get a guy that not only can block, but also can catch the football. So I actually am going Michael Mayer if you guys sign off.
Yeah, I was just saying offensive weapon, but Michael Mayer, he can serve a purpose in the run game too. I'm on board.
So we're going to go with Michael Mayer here. We pick a tight end at 20, and maybe some people think that that's a little bit rich, but this guy is a really, really good football player. And I know Nick is going to be depressed seeing who just flew off the board here. John Michael Schmitz is gone. He is picked by the Bills at pick 28, just 3 picks before.
That's the draft for you. That happens, man.
That's the risks that you play here. But there's still some really good players on the board here with our final first-round selection at number 31. And I think if the Seahawks do this, they are not going to be trading down from either one of these other first-round picks. You're going to take advantage of these 3 first-rounders that you have. And there are several names that jump out. I already know who I'm pounding the table for on this one. I thought he would be a little bit too small to play in earlier positioning if they would have tried to pick him at 5 or even 20. But if you can get Kalijah Kancey at number 31 with that elite athleticism and pass rushing ability, you put him on the same line with Draymond Jones and a little older but still can be effective Jaron Reed, you've got a really nice bevy of weapons there in your interior defensive line. And so that's a player that immediately jumps out to me as somebody that we should be targeting here.
Yeah, I think with Jalen Carter's selection, 2 interior defensive linemen in the first round might cause some hand wringing. But we also have been saying all offseason that defensive line is a big need, and they've certainly addressed that in the offseason.
You've also got Zay Flowers there, who is
Zay Flowers is a guy I've been targeting, but with Michael Mayer, they got another pass catcher. But Zay Flowers, I think, in some ways, might be even better of a more dynamic, versatile option than even Jackson Smith and Jigba. I know Bijan Robinson's still up there, Corbin. I'm surprised you didn't jump up at that. And this would be a later pick, if I'm not mistaken, than they took Rashad Penny in the first round. So I think this is an opportunity where I would be okay with looking at Bijan Robinson at running back to add his skills to the room with Ken Walker. So I might be leaning either Bijan Robinson here. I think this is an opportunity where you almost we discussed taking him at 22, at 20, and all of a sudden he's here at 31. So Bijan Robinson for me has a big chance here, and Zay Flowers I think would be a strong second.
For me,
let's
personally,
see where Dallas stands here. Yeah,
for me personally, I would not be surprised if Bijan is the pick, being that he is available. But in terms of usage, if we want to go full offense mode and just make this offense as explosive as possible, we got the tight end. What's the other hole missing on the offense in terms of weapons? That third wide receiver. You have 2 wide receivers now available. If you want the more explosive one, you go for Zay Flowers. But if you want the more, I think, pure route runner, then you got Jordan Addison available. Personally, I would prefer Jordan Addison to be the pick, but I could definitely see Bijan being the guy.
I really like Jordan Addison, and he is not a guy that tested quite as well as Zay Flowers, but I actually think that he is the more polished overall football player of these two. I like Zay Flowers a lot too. I think both these guys are first rounders, so I would be on board with either one of those players. Let's go receiver. Nick, you get to make the final call here, though. Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison?
You make some good points about Jordan Addison might be a better overall athlete and more well-rounded as a receiver. So I think Jordan Addison is one of the better receivers in this draft. We can do that for sure.
Let's do it. Let's pick Jordan Addison. So that rounds out our first round. We actually got 2 offensive weapons, but we did get the defensive tackle that Seattle so badly needs. And now we'll be back on the clock at 38. Since we didn't make any trade ups, we're going to have 2 second-round picks. And so let's get to our second rounders here now. Number 38, seeing what's still on the board. I tell you what, guys, at this point, if Bijan Robinson is there at number 38, I think you have 100% got to do it, because now it's just best player available. You've got to take that run.
Yeah, I don't see how you can defend not doing that now, especially with the depth the Seahawks don't have at running back.
The only counter argument you could make is if you wanted to go with Kalijah Kancey here and continue to upgrade your defensive line, which there'd be nothing wrong with doing that either. But
there's absolutely no disagreement with the Bijan Robinson pick. You strictly go best player available. It's what got you success last draft. It's what's going to get you success in the future drafts as well.
Let's do it. Let's pick the running back. And I know some of our fans are going to throw a hissy fit, but you guys will be surprised. A lot of our listeners have wanted Bijan Robinson in the first couple of rounds.
At 38, I think 38 is...
Why not? He's a phenomenal talent. So,
38, it's almost a steal.
All right, so we get our running back, Bijan Robinson, now going with Ken Walker III. That is a nasty backfield. Got a little bit of a break here, and we'll be back on the board at 53. Going to try to speed the process up a little bit here. There's a few guys that have fallen that I'm surprised about. Brian Branch being one of them. Now that Ryan Neal is probably gone, maybe that's something to consider here. You've got a few corners that are decent that are on the board. Pass rushers. I think I know where I am going here at this point, though, and we'll see what a few of you guys here think. But there is a position that Bobby Wagner came back to that I still think long-term they need to find somebody early in this draft. And there's one player in particular here that I think is going to be a stud at the next level that's available here in the 50s. I think this is a great landing spot for Jack Campbell.
Yeah, Jack Campbell is definitely a fine linebacker, and he just – I don't know if it's the Iowa thing, but he just feels like he's going to be a good NFL linebacker. Right? And that might be just cheesy, but he would definitely fill a future need as well as a present one. I'll throw a little wrench in there too. I'm a big Hendon Hooker fan, and if you're not going to go top 4 quarterbacks and you still want to get one and to compete, learn under Geno, Hendon Hooker, he's got that 58 touchdown, 5 interception ratio the last 2 years. I know he might be a little bit a system quarterback and the injury too, but with the athleticism, the arm, it seems like he's just a good, mature guy too. A quarterback to consider after the top 4 or 5 are gone.
Yeah, this is an interesting decision to make here because you've got who I believe is the best pure linebacker in this class, at least traditional linebacker, and then Hendon Hooker is probably a top 15 pick, top 10 pick if he doesn't tear his ACL, and you can get him here to groom under Geno Smith. So there's some interesting possibilities here for the Seahawks. You could get an edge like Isaiah Foskey. I mean, there's a number of players here. I think Campbell's the one that makes sense. Dallas, where do you stand on this, though? Because I know Hendon Hooker is a quality quarterback that's available in the second round.
Hendon Hooker is a very quality quarterback, but I would have been interested.
So they actually picked for us. I forgot to pause the thing. So
no, it's all good. No,
we got BJ Ojulari. We can pick our guy, and I can edit it at the end of this. But that's the issue with 2-minute clock. So we got an edge. But Dallas, let's talk about who we want here at this pick.
So at this pick, I think right now you're going to have to go interior defensive line. You have a hole at nose tackle. You don't have Al Woods. Poona Ford's not back on the roster. You just have a massive hole. Monet's injured. You just got to go, I feel, with the best interior defensive lineman with potential to be able to play the nose.
I don't know that there's anybody. It feels like we'd be reaching here.
Yeah, that would be a reach at this pick right now.
But seeing what would have been on the board if the computer did not pick, somebody like Gervin Dexter, Benton would have been good here. Hendon Hooker was picked by the Lions a couple picks later. So obviously our results are now not perfect with that. But there is still a certain guy that is available here on the board that we were talking about. So, I think in this point, if we're just looking at all the players, Jack Campbell is still there. So even though it's going to say BJ Ojulari, we could say Hooker on this pick. We could say Jack Campbell, and we'll just make a modification after we get done with the draft. But this would be one of those cases where this has actually happened in NFL history. A team has had their pick skipped over because they haven't got their pick in on time. So that's what happened to us here on Locked On Seahawks. But Dallas, I'm going to let you make this pick because Nick got to make the last one.
If we're going to go linebacker, I would go either Campbell. Your decision would be Campbell or Henley. And those are the 2 top linebackers in the draft for me. Is either you want speed or do you want the thumper in the middle. So I would agree with you on linebacker. Just it depends on which type you want. Personally, I would rather go Henley. But I could definitely see where you're coming from on why you would want Campbell, especially with where the run defense was last year.
Let's go with Henley. Let's go with your pick there. We get more athletic in the middle on defense. And so even though it says BJ Ojulari is our pick on there, we picked Henley. That is our selection there. So let's continue the draft now for the Seahawks. And we will be back on the board in the 4th round, I believe. I know we have pick 83 in the 3rd round coming up here. Pick number 83. So far, we've had Jalen Carter, Michael Mayer, Jordan Addison, Bijan Robinson, and Deion Henley. I know it says BJ Ojulari, but We timed out on our 2 minutes. It's the only reason we didn't get the pick that we wanted there. Welcome to a mock draft done online with 2-minute clock. So I'm going to pause so we don't have that happen again. Looking at who is available, there's still some really good players on the board, a lot of safeties. Henley's actually here if we wanted to pick him to put on a list, but we picked him earlier with that second round selection. So at number 84, Dallas, I'm going to give you the mic here first. Jack Campbell's still there. We just picked a linebacker, though. Don't really need that. Tanner McKee is the best quarterback that's available on the board now. Jamie Robinson, the safety they're having a visit with in Seattle. There's a couple running backs. There's a few corners that are on the board as well. There has been a significant drop-off in talent, though.
Just skipping over Jaron Hall at BYU, huh?
Yeah, well, you can make your case here if you would like to, Nick. But this feels like now, instead of looking at the entire board, we need to be starting to think about positions. And I know that you want to pick the best player available, but they're not going to probably be picking a safety here. We just picked a linebacker. So maybe we're looking at cornerback, for example, or maybe we're looking at, say, a defensive end, an edge rusher.
Edge rusher. I'd say edge rusher, corner would probably be the top.
I think corner would be one, too.
Looking at the corners that are available right now, there's still some pretty good ones. I know which two I would be clamoring for the table for that I think will be gone at this point. And I know we didn't pick one Iowa guy, but Riley Moss is a really good corner. 11 interceptions in his career for the Hawkeyes. And I think he would be a fun fit across from Tariq Woolen, at least competing with Mike Jackson and Trey Brown right off the bat. And Jacorian Bennett is a phenomenal athlete from Maryland. So those two players could make a lot of sense here.
Yeah, I like those two. I do like Eli Ricks as well, out of Alabama. This seems like there's a good run of middle tier solid corners here. So I think we probably could dive in deep and select one that we like. But there's a run of 3 or 4 still corners that either have fallen this far or right around the sweet spot for this draft selection. So
I have another argument to make here too. Oluwatimi from Michigan is still available as well. You want to talk about a guy that's played a lot of snaps at the college level, and he is one of the best centers in his class. I'm actually surprised that Draft Network has him this low on the board. This would be an ideal location to pick him.
You know what? I just kind of assumed he was gone already.
I did too.
I'm changing my pick.
I think that this is a home run. We got to go with Oluwatimi. I can never say his name correctly.
Yeah, I got to stick to my bit all off season for center. So we have to.
This one makes sense. Yeah. So we'll go with Oluwatimi from Michigan. Let's get our center. So now we fill that void, and we get it in the 4th round. So that's really good value. Actually, this is
you get him competing with Evan Brown.
I keep looking at ranking instead of the
value pick right there.
Yeah, and he's going to compete with Evan Brown. It's not an immediate, he needs to start week 1 or else kind of situation.
And again, just to clarify for our listeners, we did not select B.J. Ojulari, although I like the player. That pick was actually Henley. We timed out on the mock simulator. So that was our 5th selection. So far, we've gotten Jalen Carter, Michael Mayer, Jordan Addison, Bijan Robinson, Deion Henley, and now Oluwatimi from Michigan to get our center spot filled. And so we are back on the clock now, and we are getting into day 3 picks. So we got to make these selections fairly quickly. And I think now this really boils down to, are there some good corners? Yeah, some of the guys that we were just talking about are still there. I would make the argument for Riley Moss from this group. Corey Trice from Purdue is another bigger body corner that is pretty good. That would make some sense if we're looking at the entire board and players available. I know we picked Dan Henley, but if Jack Campbell is still there at this point,
yeah,
you have to start considering the possibilities because we're looking at, it's day 3. You want to get the best players that you can.
Yeah, Jack. Even if you do select a linebacker, Jack Campbell's got it. That's a pretty darn good hedge. If Henley doesn't work out, I mean, they're 2 different players. First of all, really, they're 2 different linebackers. I did.
Henley could be more of that outside linebacker too.
Right. Yeah, and so there's a bit of a fit maybe for both of them. At corner, Mr. Last Chance U himself, Rajon Wright, still a pretty long corner too. Yeah, there's a few ways you can go here. But yeah, if Campbell falls this far, it's almost like even you might need to just do it.
Yeah, Dallas, what do you think on this front? Because we could go with the corner or we can take the best player available. Jack Campbell, in my opinion, is a borderline first-round pick, but he's still there here, ranked 55th on their board. He is still there in the middle of the fourth round.
If he's one of your top guys on the board and it's that much ahead of any other guy, I don't think there's any other pick you really can make. This is, in terms of strict value, with these later day 3 picks, you're kind of throwing a dart at anybody anyways. There's really no guarantee where they're going to end up. If you just go for the best value and see who got the best odds to end up being somebody, and Jack Campbell, if he falls in day 3 in the real draft, I think draft Twitter would go absolutely nuts.
Yeah, if he was here at this stage and they didn't pick him, I think there would be an uproar. So let's pick the best player available, because this one easily is the best player available in this case, and getting a more pure traditional linebacker in Jack Campbell.
There's a universe where he and Henley can coexist. So,
I mean, Bobby Wagner's not going to be playing forever, and Devin Bush is on a 1-year contract. Jordan Brooks has 1 year left in his deal. I mean, this is a position where drafting 2 players would make a lot of sense, in my opinion, especially if somebody that good falls that far in the draft. Now, we're going to be back up here, and we have 2 picks really quick in the 5th round, and it would be 153 and 156. And to speed this process up, this is how the Seahawks kind of do it in later rounds. Steve Hutchinson, for example, pitched the selection for Stone Forsythe a couple years ago. So we're going to individually make selections here. So, Nick, you get to make this one here at pick number 153. And looking at the players that are available on the board, we've still got Jacorian Bennett, the best corner, in my opinion, that's on here. Wright's another one to look at. You've got a few edge rushers. Riley Moss is still on here as well. Kendra Miller, another running back. There's some good edges, a couple more receivers. I mean, there's a lot of talent still on this board. Who jumps out to you as the selection here for 153?
You said Moss is still available at corner?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I like the ball skills. I like the athleticism. And I think that's still a need, even though you got a couple of really good guys. And I think Riley Moss would fit in well. In worst case scenario, he's a pretty talented special teamer.
So Riley Moss is going to go to us, and we are going to be right back on the clock at 156. And now, Dallas, you get the honors with our other 5th-round pick here. And we look at what we've picked so far. We've gotten a defensive tackle. We got a tight end, got a receiver, running back, 2 linebackers, a center, and a corner. And so there are a few positions that still stand out here. Edge might be one that still jumps out. But in particular, at this stage of the draft, you're just looking for the best talent you can find.
Specifically for me, in this part of the draft, I think a guy like Yaya Diaby, a guy like Broderick Martin, Cameron Young, the last 2 names, both are nose tackles. Yaya Diaby's an edge, uber athletic. All of them are just going to each help in the run game specifically. I'm not sure if Diaby is available though, or on the board still.
So there are a few good edges. Isaiah McGuire from Missouri is still available. Lonnie Phelps from Kansas. Carl Brooks is still available. Diaby from Louisville is still available. They have him way lower than I would think you would put him on here.
I like Diaby.
I would take Diaby.
Okay, let's go with it. Yaya Diaby. I like these Louisville prospects. They have a linebacker, Abdullah, that I really like too. So that would be one that makes a lot of sense, getting that bigger bodied edge that can also play a little bit inside. And so now we'll be back on the board. We've got 2 more selections, or 3 more actually. We acquired one earlier with that trade down with the Eagles. We had 200, 239, and 250. I'm going to be making pick 200 because I want to get in on the action here. So I will be on the board at pick 200. Right now we're in the 170s. Working towards, and the reason we did this slow, those watching on YouTube, is because we wanted to make sure if we could trade up early in the draft that we could. If you have it on fast, it literally is a blur and your pick is up at number 5. So you don't have a chance to see how that unfolds. And so coming up at 200, seeing at all the players that are available here for the Seahawks to pick, there's still a couple of good edges. There's a couple of receivers. I'm going to make the argument here. I know that we picked Jordan Addison earlier, but Seattle, you look at their receiving core away from DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett right now. They could use multiple receivers in this draft class. And I think that Charlie Jones from Purdue gives you a different skill set. You want to talk about a guy that can move chains, and he's kind of that Wes Welker type, had 13 touchdowns this past season for Purdue. So I think you put him and Jordan Addison in there to compete for the 3 and 4 spots. You could have a loaded offense with those players. So I'm actually going to double up at receiver here. I'm going to pick Charlie Jones out of Purdue with this selection. And that'll leave us with 2 picks left, 239 and 250. Nick, you will get 239. Dallas will get 250 to round out our 7th round of this draft. And so Nick will be on the clock here in just a moment. That would be one thing I would say for this. I wish in the 6th and 7th round that they sped the normal up, because usually these picks are made in 20 seconds in the actual draft, and they do not take long to make these picks. But the Seahawks are going to be on the clock here in a moment at 239. You look, Nick, at this point, we've covered almost all of our bases. So this really can you interesting product that is available that is worth selecting here. I think I see right now who I would pick, but I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt here. It's your selection.
You know, it's probably just the Brock Purdy effect. What are the quarterbacks still available? Just for fun.
Let's see which QBs are still on the board. Tanner Morgan, Sean Clifford, Adrian
right.
Martinez, and Chase Bryce.
Yeah, nothing. No one really.
I will pass on the quarterback with that group.
I was thinking if you know, like Aiden or Jake Hain or Aiden O'Connell, one of those guys or something, a flyer. But no, Tommy DeVito. I actually do like Isaiah McGuire out of Mizzou, and double up on edge. You get a guy in there who's athletic. I like that a lot. Let's see who else.
See if there's any interior defensive line. We haven't been able to get that nose because there was a run on them, but not really anybody. I mean, Broderick Martin is a big dude.
You know what? Broderick Martin, I do like his game. If he's my pick and the leader in the clubhouse, unless something else. Now, yeah, let's do Martin. I like that. It feels another.
Let's get a big guy. Let's get a 340,
Dallas
350
head. I like that. So, yeah.
Oh, I've been high on that pick. I love Broderick Martin. I put out a tweet just kind of giving a little rundown on his game. Love his game. Dominant run defender.
All right, Dallas, you now get the final honors here to round out this draft class with pick number 250. And again, this is a situation where we don't really have any set needs. We have covered almost everything that we could possibly cover here. I mean, maybe a late round safety would make some sense. We could go with another edge. There are some intriguing guys on here. Somebody like maybe Jose Ramirez from Eastern Michigan could make some sense. If we wanted to go with another offensive lineman, I mean, there are some options here, but it's the 7th round. And at this stage, there's not a lot of talent left on the board.
Yeah, I think at this point, you're probably just going to go best player available, regardless of position. As you said, I think your needs have all been covered through the draft and through free agency. You don't really have a position or a specific hole you need to cover. I think for my pick, I liked Jose Ramirez. I think he's another athletic edge. I know you already picked Diaby, but another guy, you're just throwing a dart in the later rounds. You pick a dude who checks all the athletic profiles that you're looking for. And yes, you might need to teach him pass rush technique and everything, but I think he could be the guy.
Heck of a third baseman for the Cleveland Guardians, too. I had to sneak that in there.
We're all in baseball jerseys, so we had to make sure we had some kind of.
It just came out. Yeah.
All right, so our mock draft here is finished, and looking at the draft that we just had, and I love the fact that we were talking about 3 first-round picks for mock draft Monday. I believe it was this Monday that we were talking about that, and that's actually how it played out on this. But we get Jalen Carter at 10, and then we get 2 offensive weapons with the other 2 first-round picks, Michael Mayer and Jordan Addison. We get another running back. I mean, if Bijan Robinson's there at 38, you got to take him. And that's what we did. His best player available. And then pick 53, it says B.J. Ojulari on here, but we timed out Dan Henley was actually our selection there. So we got an athletic linebacker. We get Olu Oluwademi, the center from Michigan, in the third round. And then Jack Campbell. This is not going to happen in real life. But if he falls to this point, fourth round, we take him. Double up at linebacker. We get a good ball hawking corner in Riley Moss. Yaya Diaby, the edge from Louisville. Another receiver, Charlie Jones from Purdue. Really good value there at pick 200. We get our big nose tackle, Broderick Martin from Western Kentucky. And then Jose Ramirez, the really athletic edge that I believe ran his 3-cone in under 7 seconds. He is extremely athletic. So that's a fun guy to take a flyer on in the 7th round. Overall, I would really love the way that this draft class came together. We were able to still get that defensive tackle. If Jalen Carter is on your big board, you're going to be taking him at number 10 there. And we get a number of other big picks. Nick, what was your favorite selection from this group?
Man, I just like that run of offensive weapons in the first after Jalen Carter. I think that Geno Smith's going to be, that guy up behind the tree, wringing his hands like, here we go. This is it, man. That is how you reset and completely change the outlook of your offense into an elite offense.
Yeah, this is a team that's got a lot of weapons now with what we add, and we got a lot of good talent on defense after the first couple rounds, Dallas, which makes this even more fascinating.
I'm excited about specifically the defensive picks, as you said, in the later rounds, specifically the Riley Moss pick. I know, as you said, this isn't going to happen in real life. Being able to get a guy like Jack Campbell in that late of a round, that the value in that, it would be impossible to remake that in the actual draft. But if something like that happened, the Seahawks automatically get an A+ in the draft. I don't really care what happens everywhere else. If you get a guy of that talent in the 5th round, that's a steal.
Yeah, that was my favorite part of this mock draft, because I know some of our listeners, we read the comments while we're doing the show, just so you guys know. Some of you are like, I don't like this draft because we didn't pick any defenders early. Well, you got Jalen Carter, you got Jack Campbell, you got Riley Moss, and you added some really good value talent on day 3. And oh, by the way, Geno Smith now, he's got that complimentary third weapon, and he's got a tight end that's a chance to be a Pro Bowl, all-pro caliber player in an offense that features tight ends with Geno Smith at quarterback. And so there's a lot to like about this draft overall. Were there some players we wish we could have gotten that came off the board a little bit quicker before we were up with our picks? Absolutely. But that's the way that the NFL draft works. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at Corbin Smith NFL. You can follow Nick at Nick Lee 51. You can follow Dallas at Dallas C. Cooper. Follow and subscribe Locked On Seahawks on YouTube and all major podcast platforms for free to make sure that you don't miss a single episode. We'll be back on Monday. Rob Rang and I will be diving into some mock drafts from the experts, as we're now less than a month away from the real deal in Kansas City. Thanks for listening in. Enjoy the rest of your Friday. Go Hawks.